I don't survive Davidson those first 3 years without Terry Holland. We were miserable, and that was on me. That was my fault. We had players good enough to win games, at least to keep our head above water. I drove them unmercifully. I was tough on them. And those guys laid the foundation for our program with how tough they were. They did whatever I asked. But I asked too much and didn't care enough. And the mixture of those two things was volatile. And we lost. And only when I learned about caring about the players more than just liking them, but really showing that care, only when I learned that did we have success.
I've often referred to Davidson as Camelot. I wonder what the king is doing tonight. Well, I rephrased that and I said, I wonder what the coach is doing tonight.
Very kind of ironic here that we're center court at John Belk Arena on your court, McKillop Court. This is where it all started for you as far as the center of your life, center court, 1989. That's when I got here to Charlotte as a sports reporter, young sports reporter, and started covering you at the same time. It was a pleasure watching you all those years. 33 years here. Did it fly by? Do you look back at it and say, oh, it went slower than you thought? What was your take on that?
Well, filled with so many joys and sorrows, wins and losses, successes and failures. So a lot to think about. And it's remarkable, we as coaches can recollect an exact moment on this court at that location where Kevin Martin made a shot to send the game into overtime against Western Carolina in 2001. So we're talking 22 years ago, and I sit right here and I say, oh, I remember when. And when you can do that, it goes by quickly, but it also goes by in slow motion. And one of the great joys of coaching is that you can reflect back upon it. And it's the people, it's the experiences, it's the places. And I'm forever indebted to have had this opportunity at Davidson.
And when did you develop the love for basketball? How did that come about?
I can recall my dad putting up a hoop in the backyard, and we lived in this attached house in an alleyway behind us, and in the yard they put a hoop that everyone in the neighborhood came to
Right.
play at. And that was the first time I actually recall playing basketball. And then you play what was called CYO, Catholic Youth Organization, and I did it from Pee Wee year right to high school days.
What kind of high school player were you? Were you good?
I was a very modest high school player. Was cut as a freshman, was cut as a sophomore, was cut as a junior, made it as a senior, started one game. We had a terrific team, so I don't have any regrets about being cut. But I was very modest. And I was lucky because I went to an all-boys Catholic school and had no basketball scholarships. I was the sixth man. I scored a couple of points. We had a good season. And in April of my senior year, I would play pickup with a legendary New York City player, Kevin Joyce, who lived in my neighborhood, and we'd go into Archbishop Malloy in Queens and play every Saturday in April and May. And I'm a great believer that you are always on stage. I never realized that while I was playing these pickup games, Mr. Jack Curran, the Hall of Famer, was watching. He's the baseball coach at Malloy, but he was also the basketball coach. He loved the way I played. Made a phone call to Tom Quinn, a coach in East Carolina. Sight unseen, I got a scholarship to East Carolina. I was very fortunate.
Coach, you were close to the NBA. I mean, you were
real
there.
close.
You actually were close.
Cut from the worst team in NBA history. How about that? I signed as a free agent with the 76ers, got released before the first exhibition. They went on to a season of 9-72, so added up I was released from the worst team in NBA history.
Get out of here. Can you still shoot it, or do you? I mean, you could shoot back then. You just
Not really. I was never a shooter. I was more of a scorer than a shooter. Remember, there was no three-point line. There was no dunking. There was no shot clock. Different world.
right. Yes, I actually. Your coach. Now you went on to become one of the best coaches in college basketball, and I know you won't say you were, but you are, and you were. You're still a coach. You always feel like when you go somewhere, I call you coach. I'll always call you coach. Is that something that you see a lot?
You know, I'm a great believer that we're all coaches. In whatever capacity our lives is lived, coach as a father, coach as a grandfather, coach as a spouse, coach in the community, coach in the office. So I think it's a nickname that is reverent. It's sacred. It's special. Oh yeah, and I will forever cherish that I have been called coach for 50 years.
You did an assistant coaching position here at Davidson, then you came back as the head coach in 1989, and it was magical.
I never dreamed about coaching. I dreamed about playing center field for the Yankees or point guard for the New York Knicks. Those dreams didn't come true. But I think we need to look at our lives, and the dreams that come to us in our youth eventually come back to us as we mature and get older, but in different shapes and different forms. And coaching became that resource for me to continue the competitive hunger I had. And little did I know the impact that you could have on people. And I found that to be what really drew me to coaching after my first year as a high school coach. These guys really listen to me. These guys are competing. They're playing, and we're part of a team. So I was still engaged as a competitor. I was still engaged as a teammate. And my role was just different. I wore a different hat. And I found it very exhilarating, very fulfilling. And I had the great fortune of coming to Davidson from a high school coaching head position and moving right into that head coaching position here at Davidson in '89. And again, despite all my inadequacies, Davidson managed to put up with me all these years.
Yeah. Well, you won what was the Coach of the Year award that you won at one point? Was that in 2000? I think it's 2008.
I think it was 2008 when we went to the Elite Eight. I think it was the National NABC Coach of the Year, the Naismith Award. And
right.
Quite an honor.
It was pretty special to you. You remember that and how it felt when you got that?
I remember a lot of things, and I would never rank them in terms of importance in my life or where they fit in terms of memory, but I certainly do remember that award at the Final Four that year.
When Steph came to Davidson, he had one tattoo. And when he got here, he had another tattoo that he put on. The tattoo that he put on when he was here is on his wrist. It says TCC. The tattoo that he had when he came here has been with him his whole life. You see, he's got TCC written on his heart.
Having coached Steph Curry, going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. How did you get? Can you take me through that? How that all came about? How you were able to recruit him? Because I know I listened to your speech at his graduation. You said that you walked in, he was already saying, "Coach, I'm coming to Davidson." How did that come about that he was that committed immediately?
We recruited him rather aggressively, maybe as early as his sophomore year. And I had known Steph since he was 10 years old. He played for the Charlotte Heat with our youngest, Brendan, who played here with Steph. They played baseball together, and they were state champs. I was blown away by how good Steph was in baseball. As a 10-year-old, Stephen at that age, at the age of 10, was a talent with his eye-hand coordination, with his feet, with his understanding of the game of baseball. But also he checked the boxes in terms of the way he behaved, the way he worked, the way he was a teammate. So the process had a great beginning when he was 10 years old. Watch him in high school as a basketball player. He had given up baseball. And you see these same character traits coming to the forefront, but he wasn't mature and physical enough at that point to be a Division I player. We saw too many other boxes checked, and we say, no, this guy's going to make it. He's not going to have any of these lack of quickness, lack of strength, lack of size, lack of physicality. That's not going to be a factor in his success as a college Division I basketball player. And sure enough, as he matured in the high school years, his quickness started to evolve, his strength, sinewy as can be, started to show itself. He didn't have the muscular look, nor did he have the manly features because he was baby-faced. And we were the ones that stayed on him and stayed on him and stayed on him, and not many people recruited him. So when we walked into his living room, Matt Matheny and I took that home visit in the fall of 2005. We were blown away that 10 minutes, 15 minutes into our conversation, he stands up, and only the way Steph can do it is says, Coach, I'm coming to Davidson. And Matt Matheny and I were just floored that it was so committed at that point. And it was one of the great memories we have as basketball coaches here at Davidson.
Well, a wonderful family, too. I've known Dale for many, many years.
Dale and Sonia were the model parents in terms of raising their children, and Steph epitomizes that. They taught him so many values in life. His accountability is extraordinary. His work ethic is off the charts. His sense of team is so visible today if you watch the Golden State Warriors. I know quite a bit about Steph on the court as well as off the court. And I believe if you were to characterize the kind of person he is, basketball player, father, spouse, sibling, member of the community, you would say this: he preaches the gospel at all times and only uses words when necessary. He is a model of excellence in the way he lives his life.
So, Coach, we're here at John Belk Arena. We're in the stands. McKillop Court, you're looking out there. It wasn't McKillop Court always. That's when you know you're a big deal because they named the court after you. That's when you're a big deal, Coach. But the memories that you see things out there. What does it feel like sitting here in the stands instead of being on the sideline?
There are so many memories in the nooks and crannies of the upper level and the floor, and as you walk in and out of the locker room. And of course, the building has changed dramatically. This court was never elevated until sightlines were discovered to be out of whack, so they had to raise the court. Terry Holland did a masterful job of that.
Yes.
So the memory of what it used to look like, the memory of what happened here, the memories of nights where I'd come back here after a loss and I'd jog around the top and use my imagination. How are we going to change? How are we going to get better? What can we do different? And I would spend countless hours here. I lived across the street, so it was almost like an addition to my house. And
right.
I can remember coming over here many times with players, meeting them here at night, working, honing their skills, giving them a little bit of extra information about our game plan or a particular skill development. So this place is filled with a treasure chest of memories for me.
Your middle son, or the middle child, Matt, is of course the head coach now at Davidson. How's he doing? You give him a grade, or do you?
You know what really impressed me this year was the leadership that he showed as a head coach, which I don't believe I had that early in my career. Now here's a kid who grew up on this court, dreaming about being a Davidson basketball player, wore it on his heart, and learned his lessons very well on the court as a player, as a teammate in the locker room, and certainly as a coach on the sideline. He doesn't have an easy task. You know, you walk on this court and there's my name. It's on the end of the end zone there, and he's living up to an expectation. of not just our success, but that his father was part of that experience. He walks to the scorer's table at the beginning of the game. He shake hands with the referees, and the referees will ask him, "How's your father?" He'll see a coach on the road recruiting, "How's your father?" He'll talk to a parent of a prospect, "How's your father?" So he's constantly told about his father. And I stayed away as much as I could this year, let him put his fingerprints on the program, and I think he really has done that. It's his program. He's got his own game plan to how he's going to run the program, and he's smart enough to understand when to come to me, when not to come to me, and I'm very, very impressed with what he did this first year.
Well, that's cool. But what about you? What are you doing now in your time off, and are you enjoying retirement, or so to speak? I would imagine.
You know, retirement is another chapter that I don't know how you can prepare for it. You have to experience it to understand how you can make it as productive as possible. Davidson has given me the opportunity to stay on campus in a capacity of leader in residence on a part-time basis. So what I do is I do quite a few corporate, civic, community, church-related speeches, engagements, alumni engagements and speeches, mentoring, coaching, counseling coaches, professors, staff members, student athletes, students. So I'm, in a sense, in the locker room, in a different locker room though. And I don't have a scoreboard, and I don't have referees calling fouls. So I'm finding my way in this new chapter, but finding it very inspiring and very invigorating. So I'm feeling very fulfilled.
You look happy, Coach. And it's a pleasure to have talked to you. Thank you for spending time with us here today. And
thank you. It's a joy to be with you. And, you know, you've been doing this for 30 years, 35 years now, and you have a glow.
Thank you, Coach.
And that glow is a sign of joy. And when you do things with joy, great things happen.
Coach Bob McKillop, guys. Always be a coach. That's the Delano Little Show for this time. We hope to see you next time.
When I think of Coach McKillop, there's three words that come to mind, and it's something that he preaches every single day, and that's trust, commitment, and care. The way that he coaches his players and really cares about them to their core, not just as basketball players, but as human beings, and sending them off into the world much better men. Forever thankful for that and for who Coach McKillop is and how consistent he is every single day. And can't say nothing more about how great of a man he is and what he's done for me in my life and for Davidson College as a whole.
Hey, if you like this video, check this one out. We think you might like it too.